So pretty early, I've always kind of, I don't know if I've always known I was good, but I was successful in whatever I did. As far as wrestling, I won my first tournament, and I didn't really lose that much. I didn't like losing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because I was a good wrestler or I was just competitive.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how good of a wrestler you can be when you're 6 years old.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking, I think I was fairly good, and as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be successful at it. I remember wanting to be an Olympic champion ever since I started wrestling. I tell this story, it's kind of funny. I wanted to be an Olympic champion in freestyle wrestling, Greco wrestling, and folk style wrestling. And so that's how young I was, because they didn't even know that folk style wasn't even in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I was familiar with freestyle and Greco.
Right.
So I wanted to be a 3-time Olympic champion in all different styles. So I've always had the drive and want to be successful for as long as I can remember.
When did you first meet Tom Brands? Was it freshman, sophomore year of high school, or did you come over here for camps? Or?
I don't think I met Tom Brands until maybe my junior year of high school. Actually met him. I mean, maybe I've seen him somewhere or something, but I never actually met him until I came to camp here, and obviously he's around during the camps. So not as early as a lot of guys, but yeah, early enough.
How did you decide Iowa was your college and not Nebraska or another college?
I think growing up in Iowa, Iowa's unique in the sense that every little kid wrestling in Iowa wants to go to Iowa. That's like, we are the team in Iowa. I mean, there's Iowa State and UNI, but there's not a lot of, I shouldn't say no tradition there, but not as much tradition as here with Gable, the Brands, so on and so forth. So growing up, it's Iowa wrestling in Iowa. You look to Iowa, and I always formulated my style and my lifestyle around Iowa wrestling. And then going into high school, Coach Hildebrandt, my high school coach, he formulated his program on the Iowa program too. And he was a big fan of Tom and Terry, and he would come out here, bring guys to camps, and we actually had 2 guys from my high school program come to Iowa. Never terribly successful, but they were here, so there's a little bit of connection. So he kind of helped me along with that quote unquote Iowa style, and he kind of helped me figure out that it's not just about wrestling. It's not just your wrestling style. It's a lifestyle. And so I wanted to do everything right. I wanted to be like Tom and Terry Brands.
What does that mean to you, the Iowa style? How does that different than the Nebraska style, the Minnesota style?
I think it's hard work and doing things the hard way, but the right way. There's no shortcuts in Iowa style. I don't think Iowa style is necessarily a way of wrestling, because if you look at successful people throughout our program, they all wrestle different. You take even Tom and Terry Brands. If you know what you're watching, I mean they're very different, but very similar too. But what's a similarity there? It's hard wrestling. They were different than maybe like Joe Williams or Luke McElroy or Mark Ironside. They're all different. There's not one style that's Iowa style, but I think it's just hard wrestling and the way you live your life. All those guys, did it right, did it the hard way. Never took shortcuts.
It's like a physical, aggressive, constant, make your opponent submit to you style is kind of what I've noticed over 30 years.
Yeah, very aggressive, moving forward, enforcing your will on your opponent. But in order to do that, you got to do the right things, off the mat, in the weight room, recovery-wise, lifestyle-wise. It goes along with school and relationships. Everything's got to be in sync to your wrestling. So the way you wrestle, that's the way you got to live the rest of your life. The way you approach wrestling has to be the same way you approach school and relationships and your recovery and your weight training.